it's important that as individuals, we realize the power of our collective efforts to fight, and I use that term loosely, to fight back, and to really kind of strive to be fiercely independent and self-sufficient and not depend on these superheroes to come save us, because they're always going to sell you down the river sooner or later. That's human nature.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Otto Gomes Crypto Show. My name is Otto Gomes, and I'm super excited for the guest we have today. Talk about a lion in everything that's happening in this reality. He has just gone above and beyond being the voice for people that didn't have a voice or didn't have the strength to have a voice during these last couple of years of this BS pandemic that we've all been in. So my guest today is Ian Smith, a.k.a. Ian Smith Fitness, a.k.a. Strongman, co-owner of the now famous Attilis Gym in Bellmawr, New Jersey, for defying lockdown mandates and being fined by the state almost $1.2 million. Ian is also a men's coach, author of Find Your Hill, and now public speaker, encouraging others to think for themselves and take back the power of their voice. I give you Ian Smith. Ian, thank you, brother.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on, man. Happy to be here.
Yes, thank you so much, brother, for everything that you're doing, everything that you're speaking up for. It's really people like you, men like you, that I believe are going to be the ones to take back the control of at least the energy, the energy of the room kind of thing.
Sure.
So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Everything that we did and everything that I have become as a result of opening the gym, none of that would have been possible if people didn't give a shit about what we did originally. If we opened the gym and nobody cared, Attilis Gym wouldn't have made it, and I wouldn't have had a voice. I would have just been another business owner, and there were a lot who did try to defy and who didn't have the social firepower behind them in order to withstand the boot of government.
Yes, no, you in those beginning days, there was very few people that were willing to step up and step out, and it was the pressures, it was everything that was happening back then, and a lot of people just went deeper into the fear. So tell me a little bit. Let's go back before we get into that conversation. Let's go back as far as you can remember. What was your journey up until this point, and specifically, what was that red pill moment that really shook you out of the matrix and started becoming aware of everything that's happening around us?
Well, I cover some of this in the book that I just wrote, but for me, the red pill moment, as far as when I started, I guess, to at least have a healthy skepticism about government, was 9/11. I guess I was my sophomore year, so I was about 15 years old, and I remember those times very clearly. I remember 9/11 like it was yesterday, and remember where I was, what class I was in, and I also remember just the feeling like that unification feeling that we had as sort of Americans. But I started to kind of doubt the message that was unifying us. It was like somebody hates us. Like these people, like these undefined group of people, like this shadowy object that you can never really defeat, of like terrorism, right? It's like, how do you defeat an enemy that's not like a clear cut thing? It's an ideology. You can't defeat that. And in those early years, kind of after 9/11, I just started to like get very disenfranchised with the way that our government was posturing itself. I was watching a lot of kids who were just a little bit older than me, go off to war, and And then I remember being, lied to just like everybody else about weapons of mass destruction. And they were 100% sure that they were in there, and then they weren't. And then we were stuck over there. And, so it wasn't like that moment on 9/11, but it was 9/11 and the resulting sort of years afterwards, the expansion of wars in the Middle East and the rampant sort of abuse from the military-industrial complex that the American taxpayer was responsible for. And I started to question things then. And admittedly, I got very jaded after a couple of years, and I would kind of tune out, and then I would tune back in, and then I would tune out and tune back in, kind of throughout the years in terms of politics. Like, I remember I was, especially at that time, it was like the neoconservatives who were the enemy, right? That was that was the runaway party at the time, and the Democrats seemed to be the more sensible ones. So I remember, like, when Obama got elected, I didn't vote for him. I was a Ron Paul guy, but I remember being like, well, this guy doesn't seem as bad as, I forget who was running against him, Mitt Romney or whoever it was. Right. And I just kind of like tuned out again, for a couple of years. And then I started paying attention again, realizing that wasn't the answer either. And, that neoliberalism is just as harmful as neoconservatism. And that's kind of the two things that we've been ping-ponging back and forth between, for the past couple of decades in America. And if you follow that far enough down the road, you realize that none of these people have done a service, to the American public. Our dollar has gotten weaker. Our stance in terms of our positioning in the world, in manufacturing, in our economy, in just the respect that we have among the world is always just kind of declining. Public education in America is declining, and it's like, by what standard are we improving? No matter who we're with. And then along came the Trump years, and I was very surprised when Trump got into office. I actually didn't vote. After Ron Paul, I didn't really vote for anybody. And I was kind of like pleasantly surprised when he won. And I was like, this nationalism feels good. This pro-America, make America great again message, I can get behind this. That's kind of where I wound up. I became a small business owner. I was a personal trainer. I had worked at gyms and eventually started my own studio. So I was out as a self-employed personal trainer and independent coach. And then I bought Attilis Gym, and I was just kind of enjoying the world as it was because, hey, business was good. I was distracted by the nice parts of American life, and I was looking at what Trump was doing and say, hey, this guy's doing a pretty decent job. My pockets have money in them. I'm not stressed about a whole lot. We're not starting any new wars. This is pretty decent at least. And then along came 2020.
And then somebody punched you in the face. So thank you for that. I appreciate all that. And it seems like you had a lot of experience. I had sort of a similar journey back and forth. How old are you? Are you like 36, 37?
36. Yep.
Okay. I'm 35. So when you said sophomore in high school for 9/11, I was like, oh, I was a freshman. I remember that. Yep. So, you've been through a lot, and you've been through the back and forth, just like I have, of awareness, not awareness, and just like, well, what am I going to do? I'm just going to go back to my 9 to 5, and then you get snapped out of it, and you go, wait, what's happening? But then 2020,
I think that probably goes for a good portion of Americans, whether they've been in and out of it, or they tried to pay attention and they just became disenfranchised and kind of go back to like, hey, well, I'm just going to mind my business.
Yeah. So 2020, right? 2020 comes around, punches everybody in the face. And when did 2020 become personal for you? When did it become real?
I remember we had just opened Attilis. We were only open for 9 months, and we were on like the up and up. And when we bought that gym, it was an absolute dumpster fire. It was a failing gym. It was months behind on its rent. And we turned it around pretty quick. We worked hard. We just followed the basic blueprint to being a successful small business owner. Care about your customers. Work really hard, put money back into the business, and kind of just breathe some life into it and be there every day. And we were successful overnight. In 9 months, we had like doubled our foot traffic. We were really kind of rocking and rolling, putting a ton of money back into the business. We hadn't even paid ourselves yet, because I still had my personal training, and my partner had a nutrition store, so we were kind of just going. And then we started to hear all the whispers, of the bat flu soup, or bat soup flu, excuse me. And it was kind of like one of those things where like, whatever, you know what I mean? Like, okay. And then I remember, it kind of just like everybody remembers, it kind of ratcheted up. And then all of a sudden, like, they had mentioned it once or twice. And then next thing you know, it was like on the news all day. And then we had our first case in California. And then all the whispers started coming like, they're going to do a lockdown and they're going to declare martial law. And there's this like period of time in early March, where nobody knew what was happening, but the media had already gone into a full-blown, hysterical rage. The death counter was up in the corner in the, in the window or in the screen that they were on. And I just remember thinking like, man, fuck this. Like, this doesn't fucking feel right. Like, I don't know. Like, I remember thinking, like, what is this like the start to a movie? Like, this is
that's it. Like it's the start to every thriller movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like, life's all good, and like, but like you hear like the somber music in the background. And then I just remember like it started to get more real. Like they were playing pictures or videos of people dying in the streets. And I didn't really buy it, but I didn't like know what to think about it either. You know what I mean? Because I've always just remained a healthy skeptic when it comes to like mainstream anything. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, oh well, we hear an executive order's coming this week, and then and then it came out, and it was like, all New Jersey businesses that are deemed non-essential are going to close. And I just remember thinking like, what the fuck, dude? Like, this is not the way. Like, this isn't the answer. Like everybody in here is healthy. You know what I mean? Like, I've worked in the fitness industry for 10 plus years. This doesn't make any sense. Like, what? Like, if people are getting sick and why are we shutting down places like gyms? Doesn't make any sense. Like, this is a place that people come to get healthy, whether you're
get healthy. Yeah, it's like it's the complete opposite.
Whether you're doing whatever, like there is a correlation, a very clear correlation between people who take care of themselves and exercise and eat right and getting sick. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. But we didn't know enough to confidently stay open. We by no means did we want to close. It was like a worst nightmare for us. Like, what do you mean we're going to close? Like we're making money. Like, we made this thing work. We don't have any money to like float, like we don't know.
Within the first year of a brand new business too. I mean, that's like death.
Yeah. And it was just, it didn't sit right at all, but we didn't know enough to confidently stay open. At the end of the day, as much as I doubted it, I would never want to put anybody like seriously at risk if it was what they were, they were, painting it to be at the time. They were saying that like people were dropping dead in the streets and it was on everything and everywhere, and it was in the air, and it was on everything that you touched, and you couldn't be 6 feet. And so I was like, all right, I guess we'll shut down. I don't want to, but whatever. So we shut down, but we kept working. It was a brand new business. We had plenty to do still. And, that major like red pill moment of COVID was those first couple days driving down the highway, it felt like post-apocalyptic. Like, I'm driving to work, and I live a couple minutes right off of a major highway, and I would just kind of shoot right down to work. And there's traffic all the time. There's traffic at 6 a.m. There's traffic at 6 p.m. It doesn't
New Jersey.
matter. Yeah, it's Jersey,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like the only car on the whole highway, and I'm like, wow. What? Like, this just feels weird, man. Like, it doesn't feel okay. And about midway down the highway, there's a giant mall with all the big anchor stores and the Walmarts and this. And it's like, I'd be driving by and all the cars were there, but there were no cars on the road. And then I pull into the little strip mall where Attilis is, where it's all small businesses, and there's no cars. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, it just doesn't sit right. Like, you're telling me that Walmart that is literally filled with people is okay because you guys are making them wait out in line and wear like little cloth things over their face and you're checking their temperature, but like I can't do the same thing at my gym. Like, you know, I can literally do the same thing. Like, you know, like if that's all it takes, you know, because that's what they were. Okay, well, Walmart's okay as long as they, you know, you guys stand 6 feet apart and, you know, you take everybody's temperature and everybody wears masks. So it was like, okay, so why can't we do that? Why can't we do that as small businesses? Why can't we do that as churches? Why can't we do that as schools? And then the questions really just kind of started to pile up. Like it was just one thing after the next. The hypocrisy started very early. The double standard started very early. And it just didn't sit right with us. And on day 11, when they passed that economic stimulus bill to the tune of $2.6 trillion, you know, that was it. You know, we were like, nah, like we were supposed to open 3 days later and you guys just passed a spending bill that gives people money to stay home. You know, a lot of people didn't really look very far into that. Obviously, it's a 1,000-page bill. Nobody ever does. But like beyond the $600 to stay home and beyond other stuff that people knew, like, you know, hospitalized or hospitals were being incentivized to label things as COVID. The states were actually being incentivized to run tests. For every positive test, the federal government was paying for a positive PCR test. Like in New Jersey, it was something like $17,000 per positive test. Incentivizing fear. And again, knowing what we know now, and we knew it then, but most people didn't, but like the PCR test is not a diagnostic tool, it's a research tool. It was never intended to diagnose illness. What the PCR test does, you know, and we've heard this story a million times, is it magnifies something. Yeah. And it's a tool for studying. Of course everything's going to come up positive because you're replicating it. So now you're handing out money with tests that are wildly inaccurate that have a tendency to be false positive way more. Of course, everybody's going to start to buy along. You know, of course, your state government's going to fall in line. Of course, your local government's going to fall in line because the cash was flowing. And once we saw that stuff, it was like, all right, you know, we thought this was bullshit from the start, but now it's crystal clear. And we set out. We gave ourselves a couple weeks because we wanted to prepare and we wanted to be so bulletproof on what we understood about the virus, what our safety precautions were going to be, that nobody could criticize us for opening. So we so the next 6 weeks, we didn't open until 2 months later.
Oh, cool. So I didn't know that part. So before opening, you were like, let's make sure we got all our our I's dotted and T's crossed. So that.
Well, we knew first of all that we were going to be heavily criticized. Right. You know, the social temperature at that time was people were still afraid. Sure. You know, like you had your early adapters, you know, and I even bought the hype. I wiped my groceries down one time and I was like, all right, this is fucking dumb. But back then, you know, it was still a big portion of people, even your pro-America, pro-liberty people, because nobody knew what the hell was going on. So we said, all right, you know, we're gonna open. We're not just gonna open to say like fuck you. You know, at that point, I still hadn't come to the realization that like, hey, these people are assholes and they're just trying to like destroy your business. Like, it was like, okay, they've got this wrong and we've got this right. So,
gotcha. Yeah,
we're gonna open. You know, they told us we were going to open 14 days. 14 days has come and passed, and they have no plan. Here's our plan. Our plan is a 15-point safety protocol that went above and beyond what anybody had to do, whether it was government, whether it was the medical industry, whether it was essential businesses. We researched on PubMed, CDC, for what it was worth, WHO, all that. We found everything out that we could. And the safety protocol was ridiculous. I mean, every single person in the gym had their own spray bottle. You know, and the rule was
but you did it. You made it so that was like, it was so ridiculous. I was like,
we had stickers on the floor, you know, on the open spaces. So it was like, hey, if you're going to use an open space here at the gym, you know, stand on this X so you know that you're 6 feet away from the next person. We moved the entire gym around so that from where you were on the machines or where you were on the platforms and in the weightlifting area, any place you would know that you were 6 feet away from the next closest thing to you. I mean, we spent like hours and hours doing it. We brought in new filters in our HVAC system. We brought in UV light air scrubbers that like nobody even knew existed that filter the air 30,000 cubic square feet per minute and have been shown to kill coronaviruses and all that stuff. And we We said, all right, well, now we're going to open because now we have a plan that's way better than yours, and anybody can use it. You can open your business, you can open your schools, you can open your churches, and you can keep people safe without destroying your livelihood, without destroying your morality, or your hopes and dreams, and your sort of your mental health and all of these other things, because we were watching the world fall apart around us. We were watching people literally go crazy, people lose their businesses, and it's like, this isn't the answer.
So you do all this. You literally created a plan for the state, which I didn't know, dude.
We told the government too. We went to the local municipality.
Wow.
And we said, hey, we're going to open next week. And I also I did media. We went on our Facebook, our Instagram, and that's kind of what got the attention of Tucker Carlson. Was he saw the original 9-minute video where I recorded it just like this. I set it up on my phone, and I typed out a speech. I probably typed it about 40 times. I don't think I've ever rewritten something as many times. And I told people who we were, what we were going to do, why we wanted to do it, and how we were going to keep people safe. And outlined.
And so with all that, having everything ready to go for any kind of scrutiny, they still came for you. And I remember watching a video where you went live, or you posted this video where like, oh, they just took $120 something thousand from our bank account.
Yeah.
So tell me what happened there.
So it escalated pretty quickly. Day one, we opened the gym. There was a couple hundred people out in the parking lot supporting us. It was incredible. I mean, there was probably good anywhere from 500 to 1,000 people there.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Stayed the day. We had our members wrapped around the side of the building. We had locked ourselves in overnight because the police were told not to let us in by Governor Murphy. Right. And the police were there, and they were kind of just like doing crowd control, like just making sure things didn't get out of hand. And then midway through the day, the police chief, or the police captain at the time, came up, and there was this like moment of tension, and he was like, you're all here in violation of an executive order. He said, on that note, everybody be safe and have a nice day. And he walked around, and he turned around, and he actually retired late that week. Because he was just like, I'm not doing this. But
sure, yeah.
And the second lieutenant came back 15 minutes later with our first round of citations. And then
probably got promoted to sheriff.
Yeah. And then it just started to escalate from there. We took our citations, we smiled with them. Gym stays open. See you later. The next day it escalated. They started doing it to not only us but our members. We said, "Fuck you. See you later." The gym stays open. Day 3 happens. They set up cameras in the parking lot, and they're following people home and pulling them over and giving them citations for being out without permission, violation of an executive order. And again, we had the windows covered, so you don't know what was going on in our gym. And we have a nutrition store in there. So they were making the assumption just that, hey, if you're here, we're giving you tickets. They arrested somebody on the 3rd day, put him in handcuffs, gave him charges because he wouldn't give them their name. So it just started to escalate. By the end of that week, we had gotten a health department shut down. We just ignored it, whatever. We kept going. And then on Friday, they came and they changed the locks to our doors. In the middle of the night, they just came with a locksmith and just locked us out. So we picked the locks. We went back inside and just said, fuck you.
It's just like game and mouse and cat and mouse game, right?
Series of escalations, and eventually got to the point where they realized it wasn't going to work, giving us citations, because we were like, all right, cool, we'll deal with it later. We'll be in court later. The health department shutdown meant nothing. Arresting us meant nothing. Whatever, fine. People are still showing up, and they were losing more ground. And every time they did something, they were either pissing the original people off more, or they were pissing more people off. So every escalation, as long as it was in the public, and that was our plan from the beginning, it was like, hey, I'm all right taking punches, but I'm going to show everybody what a psychopath you are. You know what I mean? Because I have this nice plan. You don't want to talk about it, and all you want to do is punish me. So they got a court order against us, and that's where the real tangible punishments came in. They took that health department shutdown. They took the executive order, and they took all of our citations, and they said, hey, judge, these guys aren't listening. So the judge said, you now have a court order to shut down. And we said, fuck you. No, we don't. And that's where real tangible punishments come in, because now you're in defiance of a court order. or you're in contempt, of a court order, that's where they started fining us $15,000 per day. So they came up with this random number of $15,497.76 per day for every day that we were in operation. And to put that into perspective, we're a gym. Not only were we not charging at the time, we didn't charge members when we reopened. We said, hey, just come in. We don't care.
A whole nother level there. Wow.
Yeah. Because it wasn't about the money. It was about
at that point.
And it was like, hey, if you want to, you can donate to us. We set up a GoFundMe and we said, hey, we're probably going to have some legal fees from this, and we still have to stay open. If you want, donate. If not, we don't care. The gym's open regardless. And people were very, very generous to us. Mm-hmm. So they started finding us $15,000 per day in a gym that if we were charging, our monthly revenue is about 1,000 members at $30 a month. You're talking $30,000, maybe $10,000 more dollars in other forms of income, apparel and stuff like that. So where they got that $15,000, because it's supposed to be, the way the law is written when they talk about like fining a business, it's supposed to be, like a coercive, like a sting, like, hey,
right. Slap in the hand.
It's not supposed to be catastrophic.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be like, I'm going to destroy your life.
Yeah, exactly. It's supposed to make it inconvenient for you not to listen to them, not to put you out of business. So those fines started to rack up, and then one day we just came in the gym. We weren't paying them, whatever, like, screw you.
Sure. Yeah.
Again, we didn't really have any money. Any money that we got was almost immediately going to legal fees, or we were just paying our bills. And we came in one morning, and my partner looked at the computer, and he turned around and he said, they took it. And I was like, what? They took what? And he's like, they took every dollar we have. And they wound up taking $200,000 in total. They just kind of snapped their fingers. In the middle of ongoing litigation, we had 3 or 4 lawsuits open. We had an appeals process already on the fines. And they just came and snatched our money. And that money was earmarked as donations on our GoFundMe, which you can still find it. It says this is for the legal defense of Attilis Gym Bellmawr. So they came in and tampered with our ability to defend ourselves.
Right.
But the part of the story I love to tell when it comes to that little part right there, another example of how it wouldn't have been possible had it not been for everybody. No matter what happened, whether we got arrested, whatever, people were supporting in every way they could. And I came on and I did that video and I was like, hey guys, they took $173,000 from us. They're probably going to take some more. We're dead broke. We don't know what's next, but we know the gym's open. See you guys here today, see you tomorrow, and see you the next day. And that was really it. And I was just like, hey, share the story. Make sure people know what's going on. Mm-hmm. And people took it upon themselves to start ordering T-shirts. And they ordered $100,000 of T-shirts by the end of that week. I didn't ask. I didn't be like, hey, guys, help us out. I was just like, hey, please share the story. Because people had already, they had turned our social media into a broadcasting network. I would put out a video and it would get 40,000, 50,000 reshares. So I just said, hey, this is the latest update. And people lost their fucking minds. And it was, again, to that point where I said they were either pissing people off more or they were pissing more people off. This was an example where the entire crypto community, the crypto people kind of stay themselves. They're into crypto. The crypto community heard about it. I guess it was on Twitter or whatever, and somebody had heard about it. And they lost their fucking minds because they were this is something that was near and dear to them. You know what I mean? Because the whole idea of crypto is you don't want people in your money and in your business and to be able to control your money. And so
I lost my mind. Just say I'm in the crypto space. I'm one of those crypto people.
Yeah,
and I was like, this is it. This is why.
It was amazing because it was proof that what they have been saying for so long is exactly right. And but it recruited a whole new army of people who supported us. The guys who run Bitcoin Cash. I forget his name. I guess the founder.
Yes, I know who you're talking about.
I completely forget. Sorry. But they started a fundraiser for us. They were like, screw this. You know what I mean? We're going to teach you how to have a crypto wallet, so that you can stay in business. And so it was, and that was the whole story. It was just a series of escalations where, people just kept picking us back up and saying, nope, as long as you guys are not willing to quit, we're not gonna allow you to get stomped out. Like no matter what would happen.
Man, I love that you added that little portion there at the end about crypto coming in and taking
cool,
and like
because they had nothing to do with our fight. I mean, these were people like, you know, they may have seen the story or heard the story, and you know whatever. There's always so much going on. You can never keep up with everything, you know. But it was an entire new facet of people who were like, "Whoa, like what is going on over there?" And then they put their money where their mouth was. They said, "Hey, listen, you know, this is our hill over here. You know, our hill is this, and your hill is small business. But guess what? Now we're on the same hill, you know, because now we see that the stuff they're trying to do to you guys is the same thing that they're trying to do to us. And you know, these are our values, and this is what we care most about. But now we're under the same umbrella. We're part of the same fight. You know, if that's one thing I think that the COVID narrative nonsense over the last 2.5 years is I think it sort of opened that up for a lot of like smaller communities, you know what I mean? Like where the crypto community joined us, you know, but you saw that with like the lockdowns. There was like the people who were against the lockdowns, you know, and that was like a certain group, and, you know, and it was growing and growing and growing. And then all of a sudden when vaccine mandates came, all these other people came into the fold. And what it did especially, you know, it was like, the vaccine mandates like destroyed that like racial barrier that was going on, where it was like most anti-lockdown people tended to be like, you know, like suburbia, whatever, you know, kind of like different culture. And then you bring in the inner city culture, which these people remember the Tuskegee experiments. These people remember government forcing mandates and doing like medical procedures on them that they didn't have any say in. You know, so every time that narrative kind of expanded, it brought more people into the fold. And I think now you have a lot of people who are of all walks of life who are now saying, you know what, maybe that guy's not the enemy. Maybe it's these guys. So I think that's probably one of the best takeaways of all this is you saw so many examples of that.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that, and I've said this for a while, that I think true decentralization or true taking back of our power is going to be at the local and private levels. Like, so we have to start creating our local communities, and it can be global local. Like it can be an ideology or you know, a specific goal that brings you together, but localize it. The more we localize and organize, the more strength we're going to have in the numbers. This is great. I was going to ask you, what are your thoughts on blockchain and crypto, but I feel like I already know. Tell me what your thoughts are in the space in general, like the direction of it.
So I'm somebody who's still definitely learning. You know, I have a good understanding of it, and I have a good sense of what it can be used for if it's in the right hands. You know, my biggest fear is that just like all good technology, you know, social media is a great technology too. And MySpace didn't start out as like a big evil, you know, big tech company, you know, but here we are with, you know, you see like what's going on with the Twitter files and all this stuff, you know, which everybody knew, but no surprise. Yeah. But I love the technology. We just need to make sure that it doesn't wind up in the wrong hands and that it stays as a tool for individual liberty and freedom, because, you know, the individual can be incredibly empowered by blockchain. And there's a lot of uses for it. Like one of the uses I'm interested in is in our voting system, to make sure that we actually have a legitimate voting system that can't be tampered with. And if you use a technology like blockchain, there's no tampering with it. And maybe there is, but I'm sure there's probably fingerprints all over it if and when that's possible. You know, so I love it. I don't have the answer as to how we make sure that we don't wind up with like a digital dollar, you know, backed by the, you know,
I would CBDCs, you mean?
Yeah.
I would argue this, that it's going to happen, and it's an inevitability for those systems to incorporate blockchain into their old traditional mindsets and systems. That is an inevitability. It's going to happen. The question is, individually, us here watching and me and you individually, are we aware enough to educate ourselves and then to create a path of choice so that we're not stuck in their systems?
Yeah.
What I think will happen overnight. Sorry, say that again.
Yeah, we have to provide ourselves with an alternative.
Yeah,
because they're
exactly.
not going to. That's the problem. Is, if there's nobody who cares about like free crypto, like good crypto, then we'll wind up, being taken over in the same way and manipulated and controlled in the same way as they've used, pretty much every technology. They use big pharma, pharmaceuticals didn't start out with the intent to harm people, but the wrong people get into it, and all of a sudden it becomes a form of control. It becomes a form of just generating insane amounts of revenue. It's lost the original purpose. Yeah. I think crypto is something really important that we can't allow that to happen, because that's if it does, we're up shit's creek.
Oh yeah. Their plans are exactly that though. It's like programmable money. They want to know exactly what you're doing. And, everybody's like cheering on Elon Musk with everything that's happening with the Twitter files, but like he wants, he's for transhumanism. His Neuralink is about to come out in 6 months, which another study came out that it can be used for blockchain mining. So imagine having like a proof of thought. I know, I'm telling you, man, like all this stuff is like, oh, okay, you guys can go ahead and keep doing that. I'm going to go do this other thing over here.
Yeah.
But
it's that's scary how quickly people will jump to the next superhero. You know what I mean? Like America has a savior complex. And we desperately need to get rid of it. Because we're always looking to like the next big person who's going to, and it happened with Trump, and I'm a Trump guy, at the end of the day. I've had my criticisms of him, but I liked the direction we were going under Trump. That's for sure. But people sat around and waited for something magical to happen for the past couple of years, where Trump was going to come back and Trump was going to do this, and Trump was going to do that. And it's like, they all turn out to be big goose eggs. And it's the reality is Trump's only one guy, and whether he's your knight in shining armor or he's the devil, whatever it is, I don't really give a shit what you think. We're always looking for somebody to save us. Yeah. If we're not looking for Trump to save us, we're looking for somebody to save us from Trump. You know what I mean? And it's like, then it's Elon Musk. Elon Musk is going to save free speech. No, you know what saves free speech? Not shutting the fuck up, not self-censoring. You know what I mean? Like free speech, we've given our free speech away. You know how many people I talked to in the past year, 2 years, almost 3 years now, that have been like, yo, man, I really agree with you. I just don't talk about it a lot because of my job or because this or because that. It's like, well, like, what are you talking about shadow banning? Like, why are you worried about shadow banning? Like, you're
doing it to yourself.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's the political correctness. We've destroyed free speech enough ourselves that we can't turn around and point the finger at big tech, because most of us, we're too afraid to have the conversation at the dinner table with our own family, and teach it to our own children. So I'm not a big Elon Musk guy either, because he's just another. They're going to push that same idea. That digital dollar scares the crap out of me. I'm looking over at China right now, and I just recently saw the money that expires.
Ah, yes.
That is something I like. When I saw that, I was like, whoa, like so you can't even save your money. Like, you want to talk about lifelong slavery.
Yeah. Like
that is a scary notion. Like, your dollars expire if you don't spend them all. You know what I mean? Like, you are now, like, if you ever find yourself in that position, you are helpless. There is nothing you can do without the permission of the people who give you those dollars and who control those buttons behind the screen. So it's important that as individuals, we realize the power of our collective efforts to fight. And I use that term loosely, to fight back, and to really kind of strive to be fiercely independent and self-sufficient, and not depend on these superheroes to come save us, because they're always going to sell you down the river sooner or later. That's human nature.
Yeah, the theme that I would say for these last couple of years is take back your power. Whatever that means. There's many levels of it, but take it all back.
Yeah, we've slipped into this learned state of helplessness where, like, people are so disconnected from, like, just taking care of themselves. You know, like
victimhood almost too.
Your food is prepared for you. Like this is prepared for you. Your stuff is delivered to your door. You know, life is just everything's so convenient that you've lost the ability to like mow your own grass. You know, and I say this to a lot of people, you know, I talk a lot about just being prepared for the worst. You know, people call me a doomsdayer, but whatever. You know, I was talking to this one guy and I said, like, you know, what he was commenting on one of my Instagrams, you know, about all the beef I have and all the stuff, because I'll show it off once in a while and say, hey, listen, this is what I did to get ready. And he's like, oh, I got guns. I'm like, okay, like, what's that mean? He's like, I'll just go hunt. I'm like, okay. I'm like, have you ever hunted before? He's like, nah, but it can't be that hard. I'm like, all right. So say you do hit something. Have you ever gutted an animal before? Because if you haven't, I'm telling you, you're going to ruin it. You're going to ruin your kill. You know what I mean?
I know exactly what you're talking about. Wow, that's
and when I said that, I realized that I didn't know how to do that either. You know, and that I should probably learn. But it's and not everybody has to learn to go hunt. That's not the point of the story. Is that like we don't even know how to. And another example, you know, my family started growing a garden this year. You know, I'm glad we started because we made all the mistakes. We made every mistake there was to make. We killed tons of plants. Like God forbid. Like, thankfully, we didn't start our garden when we, like, really needed it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because we didn't know these things, and we've gotten into a state of learned helplessness where, you know, we don't even know how to take care of ourselves. People run to get a vaccine to protect themselves. Like, how about you just work out and, you know, maybe eat some good food, get some sunshine, learn about your body a little bit, instead of just like, oh, you know, protect me from this. The individual has to be re-empowered. You know, we have. It's like
it's the difference between the embodier, the person that embodies it, and then the person that just learns it and then regurgitates it. It's like, oh, you just learned it here, and now you're just speaking as though you know what you're talking about, but you've never actually done it.
Yeah, and you know, and as a whole, you know, as society as a whole, we've just become very helpless, and we're always looking to government to solve our problems now. Like that is not what this country was founded on. You know, the men and the women, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're white. I don't care if you're black. I don't care if you're like a first generation or your family has been here forever. I don't care if you come from Asia, South America, when you came to this country. The people that came before you were rugged as hell. Whether it was the people coming over on wooden ships, whether it was the slaves who fought for freedom, whether it was the Asians who were oppressed in some other way, you know, whether it was the people forging their way across the country through wilderness, like these people bet heavily on themselves. They wanted freedom so badly, and they wanted to live their own lives so badly that they were willing to risk death, anything, to make sure that they were able to provide something for their family that was meaningful. You know, and they often did it with nothing. You know what I mean? Like the first settlers came over here in wooden ships. The first thing they have to do is find something to eat and build themselves a house. You know, after they just charted the Atlantic Ocean, you know, in a wooden boat. You know, and we can't even provide for ourselves on the most basic level. We can't even take care of our bodies and our minds, you know, without relying on somebody or something telling us what to do or how to do it. And it's you know, the answers we get are never the good ones. It's always, you know, just give us a little bit more power here at the government. You know what I mean? Like, let us protect you. You know, it's okay. You know,
we're the government. We're here to help.
Yeah, give us your children. We'll teach them. You don't need to. Both of you go to work. You know, man and woman, both of you go to work because life's so expensive now, and nobody knows how to balance a budget, right? You know, because you know, you can talk about all you want, you know, the increase of price, but you know, I know a lot of people who have single income households who don't make a lot of money, who value the importance of a parent being in the home at all times versus, you know, having a babysitter and just leaving public school to raise their children. And that's helplessness. We've learned that. You know, we've all of the things that we suffer from are at least partially our fault.
Wow. Thank you for that. You know, it's a great perspective of what's happening now and taking back our power and not being dependent. It's like, this is literally a war on dependency. The more dependent you are, the more controlled you will be. Basically,
that's absolutely it. You know, and I noticed that whole that idea can be applied to anything, you know, to anybody's life. You know, and we all have something that we can improve in that category. but I realized that, when we opened the gym and I was thrown into the spotlight, I got propped up as a leader, and I didn't even know what it meant to be a leader, to be honest. I was just opening my gym, but people would come to us with all these different problems and questions and stuff like that. And I wanted to help people as badly as I could, because people were so helpful to us, and I would hear these stories, where people would be in these situations where, like, the vaccine mandate was one of them, right? And it's like, once upon a time in America, small business made up the bulk of people's incomes. More people were small business owners than they were employees. And now we're in a place where 95% of people are employees.
Wow.
And they were, that's a scary statistic. And it was almost flip-flopped. I think it was like 80-20 at the peak of small business and entrepreneurship. But people made their own money. You know what I mean? They were responsible for providing their own paycheck. And, it doesn't seem harmless, but when you got a mortgage and you got a wife and kids, and you're extended financially as far as you can go, and then somebody says, hey, take this vaccine, you're powerless, because you've spent your life working for somebody else, and you don't have the ability to walk away, especially when all the other businesses are doing it too. So I was like, man, I felt very fortunate in that moment. Like, even though my small business was under attack, I was like, I'm very thankful that I'm not in that position. The position that I'm in isn't great either, but, like, I'm thankful that I never had to weigh the measure of taking a vaccine. Like, I never felt that pressure that a lot of people did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And some people just want to take it, whatever, that's fine. Cool, good for you. They wanted to travel, they wanted life to go back to normal. But there were a lot of people who took it, who felt truly powerless, and who were, you know what I mean? And that's that type of just setup in general, whether it's with your finances, whether it's with your health, or any aspect of your life, that's not a permanent thing. You can make small changes to do that. You can start a side hustle. You can look for other sources of income. You can launch your own business. You can invest your money. You can be smarter with your purchases. Like, maybe you don't need 2 cars for your family. Maybe 1 car is okay. Is that as convenient as you riding to work on your own versus maybe your wife dropping you off and picking you up at work? No, but if it means that you don't have to make certain allowances and that you don't have to make certain sacrifices, like you could tell your boss to go fuck off, when the vaccine mandate came around, because you're financially secure, you realize, like, wow, that's a really good feeling, just being able to say no and not having somebody kind of grab you by the balls. And unfortunately, as Americans, we are more in that position than we are not. It's funny.
I agree with you 100%. And I would say, this is just based on my own experience with my students that have come to me and wanting to learn more about making money online and in the crypto space. The ones that did feel the pressure and that they made the decision to quit, those are the ones that are now pursuing the education. Those are the ones that are now like, well, that woke me up. I guess now I got to do this.
There's a lot of people that folded, and then there's a lot of people who did make that leap of faith. And I'm sure you'd probably agree, but I know a lot of people who said, you know what, screw you. You got me by the balls, but I at least believe in myself to make this work, and I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but I know I'm not going to do that. Most of the people who I know who did that are in a better position than they were then today.
100 million %.
Laterally across the board. I'm sure there might be 1 or 2 where things didn't quite work out, but that doesn't mean it didn't work out at all. It just didn't work out yet. I know a lot of people who quit their jobs and started their own businesses. I know a lot of people who quit their jobs, tightened up the hell out of their budget and rode the wave and got their job back and came back at higher pay. So it was like,
and they didn't take the job, right? Yeah.
Where, like I said, like, we came from rugged people. We came from people who believed in themselves, that were willing to bite the bullet and do hard things and make hard choices to stand up for what they believed in, and to not sort of bend the knee, and to not allow people to push them around and make them make choices that they don't want to make. If we start to embody that spirit again as Americans, and you have to start small. You know what I mean? You're before you learn to roar as a lion, you just got to figure some small steps out first. you're not going to be able to walk into your job tomorrow and say like, fuck you, I don't need this, but you can start making some steps where you get more prepared. You invest in the cryptocurrencies, whatever it is that you want to do. Start a small business, sell stuff on Facebook. And I know people who make money doing that. It's crazy. But those little steps are going to put you in a better position to where if that choice comes again, or I should say when that choice comes again, because you'll always be pressured. The world is going to pressure you to do stuff, whether it's with your job or otherwise. You're just going to be in a better position to say, no, thanks, I'm good. Because I have my life more of my life under control than I need to be able to say, I don't need what you're offering me. I don't need whatever carrot you're dangling in front of my face.
Love this conversation, but I know you have to go. I have one last question, and before I ask that, thank you, Ian. Thank you so much. Where can they find you? They can find you on Instagram, right? Ian Smith Fitness on Instagram.
Ian Smith Fitness on Instagram. Ian Smith Fitness Backup on Instagram. They're all there. In my bio is my link tree. That's got all my links to everything else, Telegram, stuff like that. Links to the book, which is Find Your Hill. I am currently pre-order the Find Your Hill book. I'm excited about that one. I definitely want to read it. Myself crazy, writing and rewriting it. But I'm on the last 2 chapters, and I don't think I'm going to rewrite it again. So it should be published probably by the end of the week. And then all the pre-orders, I'm going to be signing them and sending them out as soon as they're ready. Awesome. I'm excited about that. That's it's going to be a good read because after doing this interview, and I'm like, I'm definitely going to have to read his book just to see what he has to say. It's thank you. Awesome. Yeah. I'm actually thinking about myself writing a book one day, and I'm curious. I'm gonna ask you questions offline here, but sure. Yeah, I'm sure that's a very long journey to do that. Well, thank you, Ian. I really appreciate it. One last question here. Sure. You have a few minutes to speak to millions of people. What do you leave them with? That's an easy one. I say this in my speeches all the time. If you would have asked me 3 years ago if I could have the impact on the world that I had, I would have laughed at you, and I would have said the same thing that most people would say. I'm just one person. And I don't care what you believe in. I don't care what's important to you. Whatever it is, you can have a tremendous impact on the world around you and on people around you. 3 years ago, I was an obscure gym owner in a corner of South Jersey. And over the course of 3 years, I've been able to inspire hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people across the United States and around the world, just by doing what I felt was right and believing in what I was doing and sort of following it through. You never know who's watching you. You never know who's going to be inspired by you. You never know who is like this close to taking action in their lives, and all they needed to do was see somebody else do something courageous and brave or out of the ordinary and above average. It doesn't always, that doesn't have to be like a political thing like it was for me. It can be as simple as like taking control of your body or taking control of your finances or whatever it is. Whatever you're passionate about and whatever you care about, and share it with the world, inspire others, because that's how these things change. There's like a spider web effect, stupid example, but I've been banned from 7 airlines. And during all of this, I used to walk through the airport and ride the plane without a mask. And it was a nightmare to do. But I drew that hard line, and I used to walk through the airport and I would see people look at me and take their mask off. And that's like a super stupid example, but you don't know who's watching. So make sure that you're always doing the right thing, because there's always somebody who's going to be inspired by what you do. And if you want to change the world, it does start with the individual. Don't ever doubt the power that you have. It is far greater than you'll ever imagine. And I look back 3 years from where I'm at, and I've spoken in front of crowds of 100,000 people or more, in Washington, D.C., and I've met people from all over, and I hear it all the time. Thank you for what you did. Thank you for what you did. You got me through a dark time. I used to follow you every day, and during COVID it was really rough, and I had all these negative thoughts, and I've just been told that I've helped so many people, and I didn't even set out to help other people. You know, we were doing what we knew was right, regardless of anything else. We didn't know what we were getting into. We didn't know how big it was, but we just knew that what was happening to us and our friends was not okay. You know, in our local small businesses in South Jersey, and we never thought that we would have the impact that we ultimately had. And there's nothing, absolutely nothing uniquely special about me. There's no characteristic that I have that nobody else has. That's like this secret. We all have that within us. You know, I'm just a regular guy who stood up for. I was pushed to a point where I had to make a hard choice, and it was a scary choice, and I had to go through some punishment. But in the end of it, my life has been infinitely better as a result of it, and the impact that I've had is something that I'm very proud of.
Well, I just want to say, leaders don't choose to be leaders. They're just doers. They just become the leaders. So thank you for being that.
It's true.
Thank you, Ian. This was great. I love this conversation. Everyone out there, make sure you follow Ian on Instagram and follow along with everything that he's doing and working towards. And make sure you pre-order that book, Find Your Hill. There's a lot of information there about you and about your life and everything that you've gone through and finding your hill, right? Finding the hill to die on. I'm assuming that's what that means, right?
Yeah. Finding what's most important to you. You know, everybody's got one. You know, it's just a matter of finding what it is and then getting up there and making a change in the world. You know, you're not a leaf in the wind. You are a force to be reckoned with. You are an incredible human being. So go out there and find your hill.
Yeah, there it is. Love that. Well, thank you so much. And always remember, gamify your abundance. Thank you, guys.